Country leaders are pushing the state for continued support of the Olympic Regional Development Team and of the Lake Placid facilities. As the site of the famous Miracle on Ice, Lake Placid has a unique place in U.S. Olympic history. And the U.S. Olympic Committee says that it continues to play actually a very important role as a training site for athletes who are hoping to compete in the 2014 Games. The USOC Chief of Sport Performance, Alan Ashley, is joining me now to talk about the committee's request for sustained state support. Mr. Ashley, thanks very much for being here.
Glad to be here, Liz. Thank you.
So this is sort of like a keep us in your mind mission, correct? It's a little bit of a lobbying to raise the profile of what's going on.
A little bit of a lobbying to raise the profile, and also just to thank everyone for continuing to support what's been going on in Lake Placid. If you look at the Vancouver Games as an example, many of the athletes that went to those games and performed at a high level had come through the program and trained at Lake Placid, and it's a good opportunity to kind of say thank you for that, and I hope there's more to come.
You know, I think a lot of people, particularly in our viewing area, are familiar with the facilities, if not for anything else, because they drive by there and see those twin ski jumps. It's sort of hanging over to the left of the road. But the reality is that the last time that there was actually competition of an Olympic nature, there was the 80s. I mean, is it possible that there would ever be an Olympics in upstate New York again?
I think probably anything's possible. We are currently really not in the mode for bidding for Olympics. We're actually in a kind of building our relationships with the IOC and with the other international federations right now and with the other countries. But I think the parameters for hosting Olympics have continued to evolve, and it's always a challenge to figure out how to do it, but I think anything's possible.
Well, the parameters, I mean, you've seen these in really elaborate structures go up, for example, like in Beijing, right? I mean, just this amazing sort of architecture. Is it even realistic anymore for the U.S. to say, okay, we would put forth a bid because it's so expensive and so involved?
Well, if you remember back to 2002 in Salt Lake City, they did a good job of hosting the Winter Olympic Games, and so it's definitely possible. Things haven't changed so much since then that it's not a doable thing. It does require quite a bit of infrastructure, and as the sports have become more sophisticated and evolved, changes in the venues themselves have needed to happen. But frankly, ORDA has taken the necessary changes, as an example, with like the bobsled and the luge run to continue to make it better. So we're not in a bad place there.
How much of this actually has to do with security? I mean, in reading before you came on here, I was reading a lot about concerns about security as to why we perhaps lost Chicago.
I can't really speak to the security aspect of Chicago. It is an issue that obviously, as an example, London and all of the organizers for the major games have to consider, but it's something our country's good at, and we figure out how to manage it. So it's more about really putting together the infrastructure and the organization around it that would make it practical from an overall sporting and spectator standpoint, I think.
So actually, I understand there's also a new now youth games that could be something that actually we would be able to bid on here.
Yeah, the first Winter Youth Games will be held in Innsbruck in January, and so it's a new property that the IOC introduced, and I think it is could be very attractive for Lake Placid from the standpoint of it brings in a young generation. It's not quite as big and not quite as much infrastructure necessary as an Winter Olympic Games, but it also is high profile and important to the Olympic movement and the Olympic values.
And what goes into putting together a bid like that?
Basically, it would mean ORDA starting to put together the parameters that are required through the IOC, doing some inspections, that sort of thing. It's all pretty much what they already do in terms of bringing World Cups and other major events to the state anyway, so I don't think it'd be all that difficult to put together the bid.
And this is something that you think that we're planning on doing?
I don't know that. We had had some preliminary discussions at one point, but that'd be really up to the staff and leadership within the organization to decide.
And what is the next time frame for actually applying for something like that? If the first one is actually going to be in Austria, then obviously we've got some time to prepare.
It'll be another 2 years, so I believe that. I don't know the exact date of the bid itself, when the bid documents will be due, but there is a period of time here that there's to take a look at it. So if the Sochi Games are in 2014, so I'm guessing the next Youth Olympic Games would be in 2016, so there'd be time to put it together.
Yeah, and also today you announced, or it was announced, that Congressman Gibson was selected as the newest member of the Lake Placid Regional Winter Sports Committee. Why is that significant?
Well, from my perspective, it's really good to get a federal perspective into the overall strategy that we have. As you know, a lot of what goes on in Olympic sport is not tied to the federal government, but there are certain things that if we could figure out how to do them, such as, as an example, we're doing the Warrior Games right now in Colorado Springs, which is a veterans program that I think is really important to help us to continue to further our interaction with the Paralympics, as an example. Those types of things, I think, are really good relationships that we can form with federal government, and they can spill over into our relationship with ORDA.
Well, we will actually keep an eye on this. I want to thank you for coming in, because I know this is something particularly in the North Country that a lot of people are interested in. I've been in the area for 15 years now, and I haven't stopped hearing about the possibility that someday maybe we could get an Olympics back in New York. Well,
I think as long as these great athletes keep training up there and keep bringing high-profile results from their actions, it's going to be a topic of discussion for a while.
I want to thank you very much, Alan Ashley, for coming in.
Thank you.